Well, good Monday evening. It is October 20th, and you're tuning in to another edition of Hurricane Hub Live right here on 13 News Now. Plus, we do this every weeknight at 8 o'clock, talking about what's going on in the tropics, the Atlantic, and the Pacific. And there's not a lot, but there is kind of a lot going on in the Atlantic. We likely have our next named storm brewing there in the Caribbean. Tropical Storm Melissa in the making, now up to a 90% chance of development within the next 2 days. And again, that will be the next name on the list here. We started with Andrea, Barry, Chantal, Dexter, Aaron, Fernan, Gabrielle, Umberto, Imelda, Jerry, Karen, Lorenzo. And now we have what will likely be Melissa forming down in the Caribbean, becoming our next named storm. And overall, it's been a fairly quiet season, at least as far as any kind of landfalling systems go. Of course, the hurricane season starts on June 1st, ends on November 30th, peaks on September 10th, and here's where we are on the downward trend, certainly, in October 20th, and you'll notice that the activity much, much lower as we go into the month of November. So really late October into November, it's tough to get tropical systems to form, but we do have something that's brewing down in the Caribbean. And one thing you'll notice here as we take a look back over this hurricane season, of course, we mentioned the storms. We had one landfalling system in Mexico, that was Barry, and then we had Tropical Storm Chantal that came ashore in South Carolina. But notice all the storms have been Atlantic or this one storm down in the Bay of Campeche in the Gulf. The Caribbean has been very, very quiet. Again, that is about to change as we have our next system developing. Where do we typically see tropical systems develop as we go through the month of October? Well, the Gulf, certainly one of the areas. The water in the Gulf and the Caribbean, very, very warm right now. Matter of fact, it's warmer than what it normally is, and that's one of the reasons why we are looking at that potential development here. Western Caribbean. It might be more the Central Caribbean as we go here over the next couple of days with our next system, but those are one of the two areas that we watch for closer to the Caribbean and the Gulf, and then here off the east coast of the United States over towards Bermuda. So those are some of the areas that we typically see. It's very rare to get anything out here in the main development region, especially late October and into November to develop. Usually they're much closer to the U.S. coastline. So this is our brand new area of investigation. It's Invest 98L, which will likely become our next named storm here as we go through the next 24, maybe 36 hours. Hurricane Center is now saying that there is a 90% chance of development within the next 2 days and next 7. So maybe even as early as tomorrow. There's still some wind shear that it's encountering here on the north side of it. Notice that here's that center, and all the thunderstorm activity is there east of it. So there is a little bit of westerly wind shear. As it gets out here into the Caribbean, there's less wind shear forecast over the coming days. That's why we're looking at that potential for development. So, of course, the big question, once it develops, where is it going to go? And that is a very big question because there's a lot of differences in the computer models. You can see some carry it here off towards the north and east. That's what the American model does, the GFS. And also Google, the Google AI forecast model also calls for a turn to the north. However, the European has it lingering down here in the central and western Caribbean and eventually gets picked up and moves off towards the north. And there are some other computer models like the UK Met that also support that. So we really are going to have to see how this storm develops. And why is there a difference? Well, it's really based on the intensity of where these models are saying the storm is going to intensify. A faster intensification means that the storm will likely be picked up. When tropical systems are weak, it's really the low-level winds that sort of steer them around. Hurricanes can't move on their own. Other weather systems have to cause them to move. And if it's a weak system, it'll just generally move from east to west. Once it starts to develop and gets larger, more of the upper-level winds and those dynamics really start to steer the storm. And as we've seen with a lot of storms this year, there's been a tendency to curve off towards the north and east, off the east coast. So there's that sign that if it intensifies, that'll happen. And while both the American and the European call for it to turn, they don't agree on when that turn is going to happen. So we'll start out with the American model. Again, typically the European model is a little bit of our better models, but we definitely want to include the American model here Here's that development today. Calls for intensification as we go through the week. This is Thursday here, just south of the island of Hispaniola. That's Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Here's Puerto Rico here as an intensifying system, and then crossing over the island of Hispaniola and off the coast of the Turks and Caicos as a rapidly intensifying storm as we head 1 week from today. This is next Monday. So the American model has a big hurricane here north of Puerto Rico, east of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos a week from today, well away from the United States mainland, impacting Puerto Rico, and then moving off towards the north and east as we head towards Halloween. That's the American model. What does the European model, again, typically one of our more accurate models, what is it saying? Well, it has slower development. Notice we don't have all those isobars really packed around it as strong as the American model does. This is Thursday. You're getting close to Jamaica, south of Cuba, and southwest of Hispaniola. And then lingering still in the Caribbean Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then intensifying here Monday. So a week from today, the European model is saying it's going to be a strengthening system south of Jamaica, and then it's going to get picked up, move north across Jamaica, eastern Cuba, and move through the Bahamas as we head towards Halloween. This is Thursday, October 30th. So a big discrepancy on where this storm will go. It'll probably be a blend of the two. I don't think it'll be quite as fast as the American model, might be a little bit closer to the European model. And as we put both of the models on here together so you can sort of see, as we get into Thursday, and coming ashore here over Hispaniola, the American model. This is the European model. As we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, again, a big difference on where these two computer models have the storm going. And again, the Google model also has it curving more like the American model. We've got a couple that lean more towards the European, so we really have to see how the storm develops, and then eventually even the European model has the storm being picked up and moved off towards the northeast just at a totally different time and over a different couple of islands here, Jamaica and Cuba versus the island of Hispaniola, moving off towards the north and east. So a lot of time to watch it. Again, this is a week and a half away in these computer models, so a lot can change between now and even the next couple of days, but definitely we'll have likely a tropical depression or a tropical storm within the next 24 to 36 hours. That's what's going on in the Atlantic. The Pacific has been very active this year, and we do have one area that we're watching here south of the Mexican coastline. This system now is up to about a 60% chance of development over the next 7 days, 10% chance here the next 2 days. As we head towards the end of the week, better chance as it moves out here well away from the Mexican coastline. So that's the latest on what's going on in the tropics. I'm 13 News Now meteorologist Evan Stewart. Thank you for joining us here on Hurricane Hub Live. Again, we do this every weeknight at 8 o'clock. Certainly if there's something to talk about, and likely over the coming days, we will have a lot more to talk about with what will likely be our next tropical storm. Be sure to join Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages. He'll be in here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And for now, that's the latest from the Hurricane Hub Live.